land on which we meet. So we're obviously meeting on various lands today, and I'd like to pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. So we kickstarted our first webinar 2 weeks ago, providing an overview of the business events sector. And this is a great initiative that we're delivering for the industry with a 2-weekly series of webinars today and over the next couple of months, covering into a range of topics. And we're really doing a deep dive into some in-depth topics. And we hope that we'll be able to provide you with insights into accessing the business events sector and what you can do to engage this audience and market. I'd like to, first of all, thank our industry partners helping us to deliver this initiative. I would like to acknowledge the Victorian State Government with their support to be able to put these webinars on for industry. And I would also like to thank our delivery partner, Meetings and Events Australia, and introducing you to Joe Child shortly, who will be running this session and all the sessions in the coming months. And we're really pleased to be able to work with Joe and Mia, who are specialists in the meetings and events industry, who will be delivering these webinars for us. So we'd like these sessions to be as interactive as possible, and we'd really encourage you to ask questions at any time during the session. And you can do so by putting in a question on the chat function that you see on your screens. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Child, National Education Manager at MIA, who's going to facilitate this session. Hello, Joe, and over to you.
Hello, thank you very much for the warm welcome, and welcome everybody. It's lovely to be back here online with you all for this second session in our webinar series. So we will be spending about an hour together today, and love you to interact and ask any questions that you'd like at any time. Please use the chat function for that, that's great. And certainly, yes, that's a great question. Will you get the slides? Indeed, happy to share the slides as well. So we can make those available to you. So let's jump right into it. So today we're going to talk about marketing yourself to the business event sector. We're very happy on Mia's perspective to get involved with these webinars and to work with Business Events Victoria. Thank you very much for the opportunity. As you know, my name is Joe Child. I'm the National Education Manager at MIA. My contact details sitting up there on the screen. And particularly want to just draw attention on this one to my LinkedIn, because I want to talk a little bit about building connections for marketing purposes today. And so my LinkedIn profile is there. I'm happy to connect with anybody who's online today. And I know sometimes some of you I've already connected with from previous iterations of these webinars or other activities that we've done together. So for those of you who are new to the series and don't know much about MIA, Meetings and Events Australia, we use the short form MIA because it's a little bit easier. So we're the professional association dedicated to fostering best practice in all things event management orientated. So we specialise in things like this: training, business-to-business link development, advocacy, and putting together all sorts of different events that encourage us as event management participants or people with an interest in event management to learn more about the industry, come together, work together and collaborate. And some of you were online with me on a webinar only yesterday that I also attended that Mia put on. We do have a conference coming up, which is very topical, seeing as we are talking about the business event sector. And so the Evolve conference this year will be in sunny Melbourne. So for those of you that have some capacity in your life next week, I'd love to see you at the MIA conference on the 29th and 30th of June. Or if that's not possible, maybe you'd like to join us virtually. And I'll make sure you get a little bit of a link to that information in case you are interested in coming along. So I also want to just quickly reprise something we talked about last time, which was just to remind ourselves that when we talk about business events, sort of what we're talking about. So I will go over these pretty fast because I know that a number of people have seen this, the next couple of slides already. So when we're talking about the business event sector, we're talking about anything that's really work-orientated event activity. So not the event activities that we might go to in our leisure time, but the ones that we may attend on because our organisation sent us, or because our organisation put this event on or organised it. So things like conferences, as I mentioned earlier, product launches perhaps. If you've got a new product or a new service that you want to get out into the minds of your potential target markets, a product launch is a great business event to create a buzz or generate some interest in that particular product. Excuse my throat a little bit today. Networking events. So we do a lot of networking events in event management. It's said that event managers will go to the opening of an envelope. So we like to get out there and interact with each other. And so networking events are often a big part of the business event sector. Things like team building, perhaps, or any events that might be put on by special interest groups, people lobbying for change in society, change in various elements of the world, or just maybe discussion groups, people that want to get together and have discussions about topics of interest to them. More formal events such as board meetings, very, very big part of the business event sector, as is those exhibitions and trade shows, which I'm going to talk a bit about today, because exhibitions and trade shows are a great marketing activity, and anything else that celebrates or relates to anything that's going on in your business that can be managed or perhaps showcased through an event, that's a business event. So we're in marketing to the business event sector. We're gonna hone in on this a little bit today and focus on some particular, probably high value activities. So generally, when you're planning your marketing activities, you tend to think about who's your target audience, who do you want to attract, how much money have you got to spend, what's the life cycle of your product or service, what message you're getting out there, which marketing medium or media do you like to use. And we still do that obviously for the business event sector, but I think there's a few we'd like to maybe just spend a little bit more time thinking about, and those are the ones that are going to concentrate our minds today. So today we're going to think very much about the target audience, reaching those business event sector buyers, and thinking about how much they might know about you or your organisation or who they are. I'm going to think about the budget that the customer base may have, because you need to present your marketing messages and imagery based on the value of that customer base. Being very clear about what your message actually is, that's important in anything marketing, in order to create some sort of level of appeal. And the message needs to be credible. They need to trust you because you're offering a service very often. And it's very useful if this is endorsed. Now, in marketing, we're very much used to those third-party endorsements, aren't we? The influencers, for example, that sit all over Instagram and show your product, them using your product. That's not quite where we're going with this one. We want to think about how we might get other types of influencers perhaps to endorse our trustworthiness, our credibility, and the value of the product or service that we are promoting. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later on this morning. And also going to talk about the sort of mediums you're going to use. And these are much more collaboratively based, much more relationship based, rather than the more traditional sort of push media, or the more passive experience that sometimes we might be delivering to people if we're using the more traditional marketing, such as flyers or brochures or any other kind of paid media, for example. So the things I really want to cover today is identifying the business event target market, which is just going to pick up a little bit on what we did last time. Talking specifically about reaching the market through social media, through business-to-business marketing activities, through Famils or familiarization visits, which I'll tell you a bit more about in a moment, and also the importance of appropriate collateral or marketing materials, if you like. And always time for some questions and some comments. Please feel free to pop those into the chat at any time. And we're always happy to hear your experiences as well. So I might be asking you for a little bit of feedback along the way too, if that's okay. So as a reminder for those people here last time, and for the rest of people who are new for this week, we tend to look at the business event client in four kind of groups. There might be the government departments, that are hosting larger or smaller business type events, conferences, seminars, whatever it might be. There might be industry associations such as MIA. MIA is an industry association. They are a huge target market when it comes to business events, because they're a very active component of the business event sector. So industry associations meet a lot, and so they're very valuable to us. And nearly every organisation or grouping, or nearly every industry has an industry association of some type, some more formal than others. I'm going around in a slightly odd anti-clockwise manner. Corporate clients, the businesses, the organisations that are near you or within your state. We talked last time about how state-based business events is really coming back with a vengeance, and there's a large amount of research that shows that our corporate clients are very keen to get back into the business event market, in the business event space. They want to hold events, but they are perhaps a bit more excited about doing that in their own state. So looking locally for your business events clients is a great thing to do. And the PCO, the professional conference organizer, that's people like myself who manage events on behalf of our clients. So we are a bit of a conduit, if you like, between you as the service provider and the end user, the client, and indeed that client's clients, the delegates that attend the event in the last time. So we'll talk about how we're going to reach those people, and reaching those people through the more traditional kind of media that we might use, advertising type marketing, is less valuable and often very expensive. So we'll circumvent that, if you don't mind, and we'll look at slightly more higher value ways of getting into the ears, the eyes, and the minds of these particular client bases, or these particular client groups. So a quick reminder of what we always want to do in marketing, and I'm sure this is very familiar to lots of you. We're trying to build some level of awareness to attract this is using the term viewer or reader, but to attract our target audience's attention. And although this little slide talks a little bit about print advertising and the use of artwork, it is quite clear to sort of draw our attention to the fact that it does need to be, that the awareness that we're trying to build does need to be very clearly articulated, whichever medium we try to use. So we want to generate some interest. So interest is lovely, but interest or recognition in our service or product is a good starting point. But really we want to change that interest into desire. So we want to move them from know about it a bit, interested a bit, to think I might be interested in actually making a booking or getting in contact to try and generate some level of business together. So we're turning everything into action. So traditionally in marketing, we talk about having a call to action. And that is always important. But in the methods that I'm going to propose to you, your call to action might be a bit of a slower burn rather than an immediate response. And I know for those of us who traditionally like that, that's people just almost buy off the page, that might be a bit more difficult. But with the business events sector, it tends to be a longer term relationship build that actually translates into action, i.e. bookings. So let's have a quick look through these marketing methods that I think are the most valuable for targeting people like myself in the business events sector. So we're going to jump into social media to start with. And lots of us are probably quite active in social media in different ways. And hopefully our businesses or our organisations are also active in social media ways. Some organisations have a few more caveats to that involvement. You know, sometimes they're a little bit worried about getting too involved in social media, and they're often less engaged with people being able to interact with them on social media. But it's important that we recognise that within social media, it's a conversation. And if it's a conversation, then both parties need to be able to speak and be heard. So sometimes that can be challenging for organisations that are a little bit risk averse and don't necessarily want to see a lot of postings on their social sites. But hopefully that's not you guys in the room, or you might be able to persuade the people that make those decisions to be a little more open-minded about that, perhaps. So social media usage is becoming increasingly important. Now, this is from the lovely Social Media Census report. That's a great report, and I'll put a link actually at the end when I share the slides with you, because it always makes really, really good reading. The most up-to-date one is pre-COVID at the moment, so I'm sure there'll be another one hot off the press in a minute, but we can see from that a large proportion of businesses growing all the time has a social media presence. And if you don't, your competitor probably does. Facebook and LinkedIn are the most popular overall. But for business-to-business connections, I want to concentrate my time today and your thoughts a bit on the benefits of using LinkedIn to build those connections and to market to the business event sector. So LinkedIn is something that we're probably all involved with a bit. Most people in business have some engagement with LinkedIn. And if you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, I strongly encourage you to do that, as it's a great way to obviously build your professional networks, learn new things about the industry sectors that you might be interested in. But as a marketing method to reach the business event sector, it's extremely valuable. So recent data shows that in Australia, there's 12.75 million of us in Australia busy on LinkedIn. Some of us might be busier than others, and that's growing all the time. In fact, I mean, I looked at something back for 2021, and it was about 11 point something million. So it's growing all the time. And partially, I think it's growing because people are post-COVID, perhaps wishing to engage more with others that they haven't been able to see necessarily face to face, but also people are a little bit more fluid in the job market at the moment. So people often use LinkedIn when they're looking for work, or to show that they're interested in work, or to see what might be out there. And in fact, LinkedIn does actually have a jobs section as well. So there's a bit of a difference between pages and profiles. Both have merit. So pages, your business might have its own LinkedIn page, or your service might have a LinkedIn page, which I think is a great thing to do. It's a bit like having a Facebook page for your business. It's a bit like your own little mini website without having to have an internet builder available, and it's often a lot quicker to post and to use these rather than to go through your more traditional web pages that we did when we first started using online marketing. So pages also can be followed without a connection request. So somebody can look at your page, get to know about your business, get to know about your service, without kind of becoming your inverted commas friend or connection on LinkedIn. But I do encourage you to build up those one-on-one networks by using your own personal profile. So that means that your LinkedIn profile is your business face. And that might be different to your Facebook face, which might be your Instagram face, or even your Twitter face, if that's what you've got, that is a bit more of your personal stuff. So I'll give you a personal example of that. I am very active on LinkedIn, particularly with my Mia hat on in the Mia space, but I rarely post anything or comment on anything that is not business orientated. Whereas in my personal life, I'm also active on things like Facebook, where I'm engaged in all sorts of different other groups which are outside of my business. So I might on my Facebook page make an unflattering comment about what the Prime Minister's doing, or something on occasion, but I don't engage in that type of kind of more personal views chat on LinkedIn. I have noticed though that that's growing a bit, and so I would advise caution with that. I'd be thinking all the time that LinkedIn is almost like my work face, and it's a bit like when you get invited to something, to a networking event or something like that. I always think, actually, it's my job that's been invited, not me personally. So I see LinkedIn as my job face. And I think that's just a little point I wanted to kind of get across there. Both, though, need to be image rich and content rich. So it's important to think about, why am I using LinkedIn to market? So you're really using either your personal profile or your pages to talk to your potential clients, buyers, and collaborators. And you're using it as well to get people to engage with you, who can then almost be your free advocates your additional marketing team that you don't even have to pay for. Fantastic. So, you know, we all trust content and trust information we see on social media, if and on the web, if somebody we know, or even somebody we don't know, has recommended it. So we all often look at those Google recommendations, for example, Google reviews. I don't know these people, got no idea if they've got the same similar views or similar values as myself, but I will take some notice of that before I nip off and buy that product or go to that hairdresser or go to that event or maybe use that company. So we're used to that kind of third-party advocacy using social media, and LinkedIn is the professional way of doing it. Just another quick tip though, I get lots of people connecting with me, and I'm always happy to connect with people I don't know on LinkedIn. That's not the case on other social media, because I'm building a business-to-business relationship. I might want to engage with that person in the future to do business, or I just might be interested in hearing their views on things, or you know, having some level of connection with people who I don't know within this sector. The important thing is don't connect and then follow straight up with a pitch. And I get that happen to me quite regularly. Oh, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I think, oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. And so I do connect with that person, and pretty much in about a nanosecond, they're trying to sell me something. And that's a real turn off for most of us. And to be honest, if I'm going to buy or if I'm going to engage in business with that person through LinkedIn, I need to know more about them. I need to feel more comfortable. And that's exactly the same with anybody in the business event sector. So use it as a slow burn rather than an immediate response. Groups are great as well. Good for knowledge, good for sharing information, good for building up one's own skill sets. But the industry groups, particularly event ones, are good resources. And also good co-marketers. So all of this is about network building, really. So you're using your personal connections, which I'm sure we all do in our working life anyway, and we're using our business connections through LinkedIn in order to try and push our product or our service out to people in this industry sector that might be interested in it. So a bit of data on LinkedIn for you. 80% of LinkedIn users are decision makers, so that's really important. Or if they're not absolutely the person that makes the final decision, they're a strong advisory decision maker. 16% of users post at least once a week and spend about 7 minutes on the platform every time. So I think that that's quite low. I think that if we're using it for marketing, we might want to be a bit more active than that. So I'm also conscious that as I say this, people are thinking, oh my goodness, I'm already super busy. When am I going to find the time? So it's always about do what you can do. You know, please don't feel overburdened about spending more time than you can, but just sort of be aware that the more that you do, as the more as possible. Yes, so I've got a question about a good example of good use of groups. So groups on LinkedIn are great knowledge sharers. So you often get people on LinkedIn asking questions of each other. So they say, I've got a conference in Melbourne and I really need a good PCO. Does anybody know of anybody? Or I've got this client and their budget is quite low, and I'm thinking about what could I do for great fun type events as a social function. So people provide kind of tips and ideas, and that's all about sharing information. And you get some great information from somebody on LinkedIn. So you say, oh, thanks, that was fantastic. And then you get to know this person knows what they're talking about. So next time I'm looking for somebody, maybe I'll go back to them and do some business with them. Maybe I'm interested in using their venue because they've answered that question by saying, you know, we've got a fantastic menu in our venue because we know that people often are budget poor. So we've got this kind of like cafeteria based thing where you know there's a mix and match and or whatever it might be, and here's a picture of our lovely menus, so that you build up, if you like, not just your knowledge, but you build up some trust in the fact that there's some products out there that you might want to use. So hopefully that answers that question a bit, Rachel, but I can certainly point you into the direction of some quite interesting groups on LinkedIn in the event space as well. I might put those in the end of the, when I send out the slides, I'll add another slide with a few additional links if that works for everybody. And 40% of social media traffic to business websites goes from LinkedIn. So what happens is they see you on LinkedIn and then they go and look at your website. which does remind us that our website needs to be pretty slick as well. Because a lot of us use social pages more avidly now, sometimes our website is a bit kind of behind the times. Maybe we haven't updated it so much. We haven't added the new stuff, or we haven't put, if we've got a blog or we've written a little article, we haven't put it on our website. And if I go and look at your website, you're still talking about what you did in 2019. So sometimes it's important to remember that all of this stuff sort of trickles down and goes through to each other. It's a bit circular. So if you're doing something on LinkedIn, it's good to make sure that you're kind of maybe updating your website as well. And I'm sorry, because I know I've just given you another job. But all of those things are quite important based on this lovely, nearly half of the people that connect with you on LinkedIn will go and look at your website as well. And I do that all the time, especially if somebody wants to connect with me. I go and have a little look to find out a little bit more about them from their website. And if I connect with or I see a business I'm interested in, I'll go and look at their website rather than just take everything they put on LinkedIn and do no further investigation. So a bit of due diligence happening there. 80% of business-to-business market leads comes from LinkedIn. People use LinkedIn all the time to share information, ask questions. Can you recommend somebody for me in this area? Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting recommended by people we're connected to, even if we've never met them, and therefore we trust them a little bit further. You also build up loads of great resources in terms of people's knowledge base, which is very, very useful. An average of 10 pieces of content are considered before a purchase. Sorry, I've missed an A off there. Apologies, I'll fix that later. Before a purchase decision. So you need to be kind of active, because they're not going to see one of your kind of little posts that you put or a lovely image you put once and go, oh, lovely, buy. They're going to go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, there's something else. Even more interesting. Oh, there's some more interesting things. Maybe I'll go and look. So we've got to kind of, it's just as all marketing is always about reminding, informing and persuading, same thing happens. We're using this medium to remind people we exist, to inform them about our skills, the products and the services, and persuade them that we are reputable and good to do business with. And interestingly, 2 times businesses that post at least once a week get twice as much engagement. So if you can, set some time in your busy working schedule to put something up more than once a week, say, or at least once a week, that is, there's some value back in that. And at the beginning of these slides, I showed you where all these resources came from. So I've cannibalized this data from a range of different sources, and I'll put those links in as well. What time should you do stuff on LinkedIn? Now, I think this is a bit of a tricky one. However, from some market research, the best time is seemingly in the morning, so as before people walk in, sort of around lunchtime and towards the end of the day is when people begin to engage a bit in LinkedIn. Apparently Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays are good, so which suggests that people get in from the weekend and are super busy and don't go anywhere near the LinkedIn on a Monday. And on Fridays, maybe are doing other things. Now, though I have to say this is anecdotal only, this bit, I quite often promote mere events through personal invites. So I connect with somebody through the messages, and I use Messenger on LinkedIn and say, oh, I'm going to this event, or Mia is doing this event and I thought you might be interested in it. I get loads of responses if I do that on a Friday. People go, oh, I get replies back in messaging. So using the messaging function of LinkedIn, I find that really valuable. And it may be that in my networks, when Friday's an admin day, but that does work pretty well for me. All right, let's just jump past LinkedIn a bit. I just want to touch very quickly on Insta and Facebook, and then just a few kind of tips and tricks for what you should or shouldn't put up. Excuse me a second. Interesting info about Facebook. Best time in the afternoon. That's an interesting thing. We come back from lunch and go, I'll just have a quick look on Facebook. I'm sure that's not us. We probably don't do that. But that is apparently Facebook's peak user times. So if you're using Facebook to talk to your business event sector, your Facebook pages for your businesses or your service, maybe you're putting something up over lunchtime, you'll get a lot of traffic in the afternoon. Also, a lot of people are using it at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and a lot of user engagement on Friday. But there's a lot of different stuff there. But I think for me, the take-home one here is that, you know, there's a bit of that kind of like browsing while I have my cup of tea before I get back into my job. Or maybe, you know, that beginning of the day where before as I walk in, when I'm sitting on the bus perhaps, or the end of the day when I'm going home, or when I'm sitting at home and there's nothing really very exciting on television and I'm just scrolling through my Facebook. And that's when I'm getting those business to business things coming out of me as well, because I maybe have liked your business page, or it's coming up because it's the algorithms have recognized that I'm interested in event related stuff, so I get loads of that event related things coming up into my feed, and particularly if somebody else I know has also liked it or is interested in it. Same sort of thing with Instagram. Lunchtime is the big Instagram time, or early weekday mornings is good. So if you do use Instagram, that's maybe an interesting one where you might also consider, do you post something towards the end of the day so that people are looking at it on their way home, for example. You know, some of those lovely, Instagram's great for great imagery as well, and very useful for that. And these days, quite often your Instagram and Facebook can be linked, so you do one, it goes everywhere, which is kind of handy. So sort of one job rather than two. So what should we post on social media? So we need to be a bit careful. We need to know who we're talking to. So with all of these things, from a business perspective, you want to say, well, what is the message I want to get across? So that's no different from any of our marketing. What message am I getting across? So the key message thing is images. Images, there's a very old saying that a picture paints 1,000 words, and it's so true. High quality images though. Now, from that perspective, I should just say this little thing here, this is a great phone, but I am not a great photographer. That is an understatement of the planet. I'm useless at it. So you need high quality images. So if you can engage somebody who knows what they're doing to do that for you, that will be very valuable. The other thing that's quite useful is if you're a venue, or if you have a service where you have got a client using your service who are taking images, because they're engaged, you know, they've got their own staff there. Sometimes they'll share those images with you, and I always find they're of very high value because they're usually much better at taking pictures than me. And you can simply remove their branding and use them. And I've certainly done deals before where I've said, we'd love to use your lovely high quality images that you've got in our social feeds or elsewhere, or in any of our marketing actually, because you've paid for a lovely photographer. Perhaps we could, you know, discuss that and provide you with an additional value item so that we can get our hands on some of those pictures. Video is 24 times more engaging. So video is great, but keep it short and don't have too much talk, because actually people switch the sound off. They're just watching the pretty pictures. So a great way of that is, I think I've got this on the next slide. So is maybe, you know, show them around your business in video. But again, it needs to be pretty good. And it doesn't need to be high-end video camera necessarily, but you do need to sort of know what you're doing, and you need to be quite good at it. So find the person in your team that has that skill. You might want to write an article or an opinion piece, or just say something specific, a little opinion piece or a little bit of advice that you've discovered this week, or a lesson that you've learned, or some knowledge that you think is useful to share. All of those are great kind of conversation pieces on LinkedIn. And everybody in the room has got lots of knowledge and lots of information to share. And so it's really excellent for people to have that knowledge of you. The other thing that it does is it builds up a very large sense that you are of high value. It builds up a high sense that you know what you're talking about, and that kind of builds up that own advocacy of your own organization. But it builds up the trust of your skills and the skills in the organization. So build some confidence in your organization if you can do that. It doesn't have to be very long. In fact, shorter is quite good. Most of us don't have a very long attention span on any type of social media, but a little article is excellent. And there's a number of people that do that quite a lot and do it quite well. And I'll, again, share a few of those with you. Just little bits of kind of, things I found out this week, or some great tips that I learned at this last event, for example. Job postings are big on LinkedIn as well, and they're quite useful. So because they show that you're a vibrant and interesting place to work, but also they are quite a good way of getting your your information or the fact that you exist out to a wider market, because lots of people in event space, business event space particularly, are always interested to see who's hiring, even if they're not actually looking for a job themselves. So don't forget to also share your achievements as a business, great things that are happening in your business, great events that you put on last week, anything new that's happening. And hashtags are quite good to focus the reader's mind on the point that you're trying to make, whether hashtag community, hashtag arts, hashtag food, great food, or whatever it might be that you're saying. And you want the personality of the business to come across. So you want it to be not so much quirky, but at least engaging, because all businesses are people, and we want to do business with people. So we want the businesses that we are doing business with to have a bit of a personality and to stand out from the rest. So don't be afraid to show the personality of who you all are when you're engaging in this manner during using social media. Show the personality of business. I've said it twice, that must be really important. Great way to sort of do a little short video to show people around your business. It is quite nice if there's activity happening. So shots, any image, static or active, so video or camera, with no people in it is a bit boring. So for example, if you've got beautiful venue space, you want pictures of people using that space, enjoying it, rather than empty space. Empty space just looks like empty space. There's a reason, for example, that when we're looking to buy a house, often people pay for stages to make their house look a lot more gorgeous and a lot more tidy than it normally is. And it's very difficult sometimes to sell a house which has got no furniture in it, because we don't have much imagination about what we could use the rooms for. And that's exactly the same when we're promoting our events, or promoting any of our businesses or spaces or services to the business event sector. You want to show them, this is what we're doing. This is us in action. If you've got a goods post that people liked, you can recycle it, maybe stick it out there again with some additional comments on. Having said that, you also need to vary the content. So I like to ask questions. So you get a lot of noting of achievements, or you do sometimes see a lot of, I'm thrilled to announce. That's a bit boring, really. So it's much better to say, we've had a great week this week in our team, and blah, rather than look what I've done. I would say, thank clients. Thanks so much to client X for coming along and sharing this event with us. Or it's lovely to acknowledge team members' efforts, obviously. If you win something, absolutely put it up there. But I think it's for a conversation, it's always nice to maybe ask a question, say, and questions about anything really, it's not really much questions seeking information, maybe just questions asking people, what's the best event you've been to this week, that type of thing. So you kind of engage in some level of conversation with people. And on all of these things, if you get a comment, it's nice to at least acknowledge it. So I tend to like a lot of my LinkedIn comments. I don't necessarily, or say thank you back. And certainly responding to comments that need more of a response, whether it's we really appreciate you sharing this with us, or thank you so much, I'm glad that you loved the venue. And if it's something more negative, certainly, a comment that says, I'm really disappointed to hear this, and I'm going to reach out to you through a private message so we can know more about this, is all you need to do. But if you just leave it flat, that's obviously not such a great idea, because all of this is about reaching the audience that don't know you very well. So all of this is about building that sense of advocacy. So it's all about building business-to-business relationships, which segues us really beautifully into the next little bit of what we want to talk about with marketing directly to the business event sector. So we're creating these connections in any way we can, and social media is one way, with an aim of doing business together, often perhaps for an end client. So if you connect with a PCO or an event manager, you and they will share a client because they'll bring their client to your space or to use your service. We're also doing it to build our knowledge, build our knowledge of who's who in the zoo, build our knowledge of what's going on in the sector, to grow capacity within the team, because we want to share that knowledge with people, and also maybe get other team members to be very more active in the social media space on LinkedIn, so that we know that, so that your clients know, or potential clients know, that there's a great wealth and depth of skill in your organization. And it can kind of sort of, extend your inspiration and engagement with both the products and the services that you are particularly involved in. Your business event buyer, your business event client, is really focused in all of their purchasing on return on investment, doing business with people who are efficient, doing business with people who've got high expertise. So if we're talking about ROI, expertise and efficiency, what we're trying to do is you're trying to use this business relationship building, whether that be through social media or some other ways, to show that you can deliver all of these three key things. So you want to focus on sort of solution messages in any of the marketing activities that you're doing, so you're the something different or something new that they're looking for, rather than the more passive, this is what we have. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing that very actively already. So for example, in the venue, from a venue perspective, rather than just simply showing beautiful images of empty rooms, you show interesting events that you have had that just happen to be in your space. So you show the gamut of things that you're capable of turning on, rather than simply here's a space that somebody else can use to do something in. The importance of business relationships cannot be understated in the business event sector. We need to trust you, because we're going to share our client with you. So we want to work with people that we feel that we know, that we feel confident about their skills and abilities and expertise, who are good operators, which means they respond to us quite fast. And all of those things, if I don't know you, we don't live in the same city or the same state, it's quite difficult to do on a face-to-face basis. So that's where those social methods come in. The other thing that comes in, though, is things like this. So we are in a relatively passive environment today, because we've got a panel set up. So there's not so much engagement between you guys on the webinar, but it's perfectly possible to look and see who's here and send messages and ask questions around the room, for example. So, for example, Rachel's just asked about, for example, of good use of groups. So one of the things I might push back to everybody is to say groups on LinkedIn are great. I'm just going to pop it into the chat and ask you to please share here any groups you may be in. I'm just going to make sure we can spell properly, because normally I'm not good at that. Let's do this. So that's quite, so that's a kind of beginning to interact in this space as well. So whenever you are out or online, think about, can you interact with others? So a great way to build up your profile with potential event clients is to attend events yourself. So if you belong to any type of associations or have any connections with any type of associations that run networking events, go along. Now, I know lots of us feel quite challenged sometimes to do that. We're time poor. It's the end of a long day and we don't really feel like it. But if you see it as a marketing method, it's a great way of, again, building those connections, getting your brand, whether that's your personal brand or your business brand, out there, but also allowing you to build that capacity and capability in the eyes of a potential client moving forward. So attend conferences, come to webinars such as this in your sector or a broader focus. If you are physically somewhere, always have a business card. I'm the sort of person that likes a number of different handbags. I've always got quite a lot of different handbags on the go, but I've got business cards in every one. So I don't get to the point when I think, oh gosh, I've got the wrong bag and I haven't got a business card. And have an idea of what you want to offer the business event sector. So if you've got that clear in your mind as you go in there, if you get those kind of conversations going, then when somebody says, oh, so what is it that you do? You can talk about the fact that your service is X and how it is aimed to the business event centre. Thank you very much. Great group there from Business Events Victoria, which is great for the using connecting with EAs or executive assistants who are often the conduit to the CEO. And there's a great group there on LinkedIn. Get good at having conversations, because whether they be through your fingers in the social sense, social media sense, or face-to-face, or on a Zoom such as this, which means open-ended questions are good. We all, quite often we get asked, oh, how have you been? And we all say, oh, busy. We're all busy. So it's better to maybe avoid that one, I think, and think about some more open-ended questions, such as, what's been your best day this week? Or I think of another one quite fast. What's been the best day this week? Or what's the most exciting event you've been to this year? Or what events are you looking forward to coming up? Or whatever it might be. But they're kind of things that make you want to be able to sort of then start a conversation. And you need to kind of be in the room with that. So you open body language, maybe summarize what people have said, genuine interest, and enter that conversation with a hope that you're going to go away with a connection, with a learning of something, if that's learning what this organization does, not necessarily with a sale, not necessarily with an opportunity to sell, but certainly perhaps with an opportunity to reconnect. So swapping business cards is useful, because then you can connect with that person via LinkedIn if that's how you like, or alternatively, and you think that actually there may be some opportunity for you guys to do business with each other, is by picking up that telephone and arranging to have a cup of coffee, or inviting them to come and visit you if you have a service that is a good visual sell, you know, particularly anybody who's in a venue, for example. Come and have a cup of coffee in our venue and I'll show you around. Business event sector guests and professionals respond very, very well to overtures. We are generally a friendly bunch, and we'll never turn down a cup of coffee. So always happy to do that and try to fit that in, because we too, you know, we're looking for new stuff for our clients all the time. Moving swiftly on a little bit, be a joiner, so join in, so try to forge relationships with others in the industry sector. And we've got a question on the board, what are you doing already? So be good to get something in the chat box about that. If you are a member of anything, let us know what that is. If you go along to formal or informal events, is great to do as well. Even sort of the more casual and the more sort of private life type events, most people that we know probably have got a job, so you know they're in the event, you know, they may well be placing event business. So it's always quite useful for people that you know on a more social slide to be quite clear about what you do, for example. Maybe try to collaborate with other people as well, or if you have the opportunity to host meetings, do so. Always a good one as well. So be really interested to see if people would like to pop in that chat, anything that they might be doing, any memberships that they might have, any things that they might go to or have been to quite recently or on a relatively regular basis. So as an example, tomorrow I am going to a Chamber of Commerce event. I'm not a member of that Chamber of Commerce, but they're actually doing a little session related to sort of kind of a particular industry sector, and I don't know a thing about that industry sector, but I reckon they must do events, so I thought I'd go along. So I'm going to go along at 5 o'clock, drink a glass of wine and listen to the speaker, and take my business cards and just chat and get to know a few more people in different sectors. So and for me that is a marketing activity that I'm engaged in, because I'd like to try and promote Mia to a broader audience, and also perhaps my own sideline hustle of organising events for people as well. Other businesses I'd like to think about is a bit of a plug here for Business Events Victoria, is try if you can to get involved with these membership organisations that are going to be that conduit to your event client. They're going to be the people that can also be very effective at providing you with good introductions to valuable event clients, business event sector clients that are going to be of use to you and have got business to place, rather than people that maybe are not in that space at this point. You know, that they've got an interest, but they're not really going to be bring in any business to you anytime soon. So any of these are good. Business Events Victoria, obviously. If you're in a regional area, your regional tourism network or body, chambers of commerce, as I mentioned just now, local government organisations. Local government organisations often do a lot of training. You meet loads of people that you wouldn't necessarily come across because maybe you're not in that space usually. So being kind of open to attending things that are outside of your normal industry sector is a great way of getting your product into the eyes of people who may be having business events in the future. Remembering that we talked about corporates, government, associations, and event managers or PCOs as being those kind of main conduit groups. Also, these groups do a lot of collaborative marketing. Now, you can do collaborative marketing within your own groups, but there's a bit of an economy of scale going on here. So, for example, I know that there is a tourism conference today in Melbourne. Now, I'm delighted that you're all here, but an alternative would be to go to that because you're going to meet people who are in that sort of space. So I quite often will go to those type of things, even if I look at the content, I think, not sure that I'm really wildly excited about all of the content, but I'm going to meet people that I don't know yet. I'm going to meet organizations I'm not familiar with. So sometimes that's really worth that investment. And I don't think there's any opportunity. There's never a place that I've been, and I'm sure you're the same, where I haven't learned something. So I'm open to at least learning something new. So AIM, the Asia Pacific Incentives Meetings, is a great big business event exhibition where you get to meet a lot of potential buyers, and they are hand-picked real buyers, so real clients that have got business events to place. Usually you would be doing that as part of a bigger group, so get involved with that. Talk to Business Events Victoria, for example, who have a range of other options available to try and promote your service or product to a business event sector. Marketing on our own is like waving a little flag at the back of the room. It's really hard for people to see us, but when we're part of something bigger, a bigger group, we are much more visible to our target market. So and it's a much more economical method of marketing as well. So I know Business Events Victoria have a range of different options, and we'll ask them to tell us a little bit about that just at the end as well, because I think that's would be definitely useful to hear about. Coming along to any, going along to any other type of, thinking about exhibiting at any other conference, for example. So the MIA Revolve conference has an exhibition. Most conferences have an exhibition. So if you've got a product to sell that you think would be useful for the business event sector, attending MIA or the PCO conference, for example, or the associations forum is, even if you don't want to have an exhibition stand, go along as a delegate, because a lot of business-to-business networking and business-to-business development goes on in the tea breaks and in the social functions. In fact, I know people that go to conferences that don't go to any of the sessions, but they're all focused on the interactions and the networking. Now, in order to do that, you will need something pretty to look at. So you're going to need decent collateral, so marketing collateral, the things that we might give people to take away. So you'll need collateral and reasons to visit your stand if you're at a stand. So try to think a bit creatively perhaps about that, and make sure that any marketing collateral that you do have is consistent across every aspect of your brand. So that, same image, same type of images, whatever the colour is this year, that it's all the same colour, etc., etc. So just a few kind of images there to sort of get you thinking about that a little bit. One of the things I do quite like at exhibition-y type things is when there's like a passport. So, or where you get everybody they have to visit every stand, and maybe you ask them, there's a silly question or something, and then they go into a prize draw for a present at the end of it. It's a great way to drive traffic to your stand if you are on a promotional stand at any time. So thinking about having a competition of sorts is really useful, and where people can win a prize. And the prize ideally is a sampling your goods or product. So if you're a venue, maybe it's an overnight stay. If you're a restaurant, maybe it's a voucher for lunch or whatever it might be. The other thing that we quite often do in MIA events is that we have like a business card draw. And the business card draws are always good fun. People stick around for the business card draw, so it's kind of handy to do that. And then you give, prizes. And if you're a winery, it's a bottle of wine. So it's a prize that's relevant to your product. And it's a way of kind of getting people to sample what you do. It's a way of actually getting them to remember you. And certainly those things are often relatively low cost to you as the organisation, but have a high kind of resonance value and a reminder value with the people that won, but also the people that didn't win. They went, oh, that wine looked nice. Oh, that restaurant, I haven't heard of it. Oh, I might go and have a look. So all of those things are really, really useful to do. So hopefully you may have done some of these. So I'm very interested to hear if you have done some of these things. And again, feel free to use the chat box for that if you'd like to do so. A bit quiet in our chat at the moment, but we might encourage people to think about that and add a bit more in. It's always good to hear about the things that worked well for people. And it's also useful sometimes to hear about the things that they felt didn't work so well, because sometimes we can then help overcome those and think about how we might do it better next time around. And certainly those are great conversations to have on those LinkedIn pages, that I'm thinking of going to AIM. Who's done what are your views of that? Because people will tell you very honestly how it went for them, and depending on the product, if it is suitable for you, or service, if it's suitable for you, or maybe less suitable for you, and there's a better option for you. The other great way to engage with the business event sector, building on a bit from those prize draw type things, is to get them to come and visit you, is to show and tell them what you've got. So that is the traditional familiarisation visit, which in Australia, the land of the shorthand, is called a Famil. So I had to learn that quite early on. What's a Famil? It's a familiarisation visit. So Famils are fantastic. They are a great way of showcasing what you've got to an audience that's likely to purchase. So they're a marketing activity. They're in your marketing budget, and they're aimed at inviting potential clients, and we'll quick words about potential clients in a moment, to experience your product or your service from a VIP perspective. So what's important is it's the money can't buy experiences. So if there's a Famil group coming round and you are going to maybe get them to see your venue, then a tour of the venue is going to be important, but it needs to be a tour of the venue from somebody that really loves the venue, knows their stuff, and is good at engaging with the client. And if I'm the venue, I just don't want to do a tour. I'd love to give you lunch, please. Or I want to give you afternoon tea, because I want you to get that kind of feel-good experience with me. And I just don't want you to see my lovely rooms. I want you to see my gorgeous food and drink some of my fantastic coffee, or whatever it is we do. So it's important to think of it as an opportunity to connect as well with all of the people on the Famil, because there'll be a small group. And ideally, you do a Famil as part of a collaborative approach with a trustworthy organisation. Such as Business Events Victoria, because if you get them to your venue, or you get them to your destination, or you get them to look at your service, they'll use it and they'll be a valuable and a loyal customer. But you want the high value guests. You want the people that are actually got business to place, because all of us will say, oh yes, how lovely, I'd love to come and spend 2 days in your lovely wine region. That sounds fantastic. So doing this with people like Business Events Victoria would be my strong recommendation, because they are good at filtering out the people that are not so valuable to you. Brad's got a question about publications that are worth looking at advertising in. It depends a little bit. So I would suggest that, just a quick one on that one, if I might, before we jump back into Famils, is think about things like mice.net, Brad, and maybe try to do things what I would call an advertorial. So depending on where you're from, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure where that is, it's quite good to sort of do that collaboratively with others in your area to talk about the services and products that you've got. That's quite a valuable one, because that's an industry-based magazine, and it's also online. You'll often find as well that membership organisations will also allow you to kind of promote yourself in their newsletters. So for example, Mia do that. So we promote our members in our newsletters. There's a cost, there's an additional small cost for that, but it's like a marketing way to get out to the members, showcasing member X this week type thing. So hopefully that helped answer that question slightly. So just going back to Famils, a little bit more on them. So Famils are super valuable. So a little bit of a sort of, you really want those money can't buy experiences though. So for example, the meet the maker. So if you're a winery, you want the barrel tasting with the winemaker, as long as the winemaker can string 3 words together. You want to showcase the range of the lovely high-end experiences that you've got. The idea is, what happens is that if you invite me on a Famil, for example, you show me the best of you, what you have, and I experience what my and hopefully our mutual client will experience. They're really great for regional areas, because quite often it's challenging for us to sometimes get people to have time to come. And we know that we've got lots that we can offer them that are of high value and very useful for a business event sector that is looking for something different, something new, something outside of what they normally do. So it's about getting them there. And once you get them there and they see how easy it is, then always very delighted for them to come back. So highly recommended on that one. So it's all about, though, when you do this, it's all about creating those very memorable experiences. So just some images around that on the way. So just, the really lovely kind of experiential thing that we've got going on is the most important thing for us to think about here. So which brings us sort of towards the end, and I'm sorry, I know I might have gone over slightly, but I just want to talk very quickly just about the importance of having really strong images and things that have a very highly professional look and feel, something that communicates the message fast. So if we just go back a page, those images communicate what you could have quite quickly, because they're quite strong and very visually appealing images. It's also important that you want to elicit a positive emotion, like, ooh, yummy food, rather than looks pretty, if you know what I mean. Any articles that you write are really good with images as well. So use them consistently across all of your marketing, which we sort of talked about a little bit before. And activity-based is also really, really important too. And you might need to spend a little bit of money. Sorry about that. So me and my iPhone aren't going to work, but you might certainly want to do that a little bit. We've got a little lovely one in from Nicole. Thank you. Going back to your slide, with marketing opportunities when booked tonight on Eventbrite, I noticed the regional Victoria Showcase. Fantastic. That's really good. We might hear a little bit about that in a minute. Thank you very much for dropping that one in. That's great. Absolutely. So great place to market as well. So some final thoughts from me. Let's have a look. Well, simply to attract the business event sector, you've got to aim to develop an ongoing relationship. So it's not a quick one. We're not a one-night stand. We're a long-term love affair together, we hope. Engage with others, collaborate with others to both reach the market and work together to look after it. Consider Famils, exhibiting, networking, every possible way to engage with any type of industry sector or anybody who might be interested in placing event business with you. And try to avoid unsolicited contacts, build the connection and then market. So it's definitely a slow burn, as I said. So those are my take homes, I guess. Final thoughts and questions, very welcome. But in order to do that, we might also just hand back to Business Events Victoria for a few final words as well.
Thank you, Jo. That was fantastic. It was action-packed. It was content-rich and definitely imagery-rich out of your presentation today, Jo. And Nicole, in answer to your question about the showcase, it's an event that we run every year. It's our marquee event from Business Events Victoria. So I'd be keen to just get in touch separately with you, given that we're short on time today, just to share with you a little bit more about Business Events Victoria's collaborative marketing initiatives. But yeah, so just to round up today's session, this was a really good first look and dive into the business events target audience, marketing journey and what that looks like, marketing methods that Joe's gone very much into a bit of a snapshot and the marketing ecosystem, if you will, as well as a bit of a glimpse into the business events buyer's mindset. So there's been a lot of great insights and tips that Joe's provided on imagery and content. And the good news is that Joe will be sharing her expertise on more topics, details and insights in the coming webinars and coming weeks. So our next webinar coming up is on the 9th of August, which Joe has very kindly put up the slide too. And we'll be touching on a core topic, sales tips and techniques. So this is at the same time in 2 weeks on a Tuesday. And you will see the link in there to register if you've not already done so for the 9th of August, as well as any other webinars coming up right through till September. I will, if you will indulge me for 1 minute, if you will, just for me to share a very, very quick note on what Joe's touched on, collaborative advertising and collaterals. That is our regional Victoria Planners Guide that you see on the slide up there. The guide is among a range of initiatives that Business Events Victoria delivers. And we're very pleased to announce that our guide will be back this year in the new financial year, and we've recently just commenced sign up from members to be included into the brand new Planners Guide. So if you're keen to have your business exposure and profile included in the Regional Victoria Planners Guide, please get in touch with us to find out more. If you're not already receiving our communications as members, you will see on your screen, Chris Porter, our executive officer's details to get in touch if there is interest. So thank you very much for your attendance and participation today. And thank you again, Joe, for your facilitation of the session. We look forward to seeing you for the next webinar on the 9th of August. So see you then. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all, and we'll send out the slides and have a great day.